So yeah, you just brought up something really interesting, which is actually something which someone who just signed on with me also mentioned, which is this idea that knowing
Mm,
more or having more knowledge, having more frameworks, going to all of the sessions, that isn't actually progress for them. It is at the beginning, right? There was a time where me and you needed to
mm,
know more. But for where people are most of the time who get interested in our kind of work,
yeah.
they've already been through that hero's journey so much that you can fall into the trap that that's what the path that you need to continue to take. But really, what you need to have is that embodied difference, that embodied change. Where you
Mm,
don't just understand more, but your experience of life is actually different.
yeah, for sure. And isn't that so universal? Obviously, we're going to speak about it in this context of shadow to the light work and um, integral awakening. But that thing of going into almost a simplicity and really just allowing that depth to emerge is it's it's so easy to avoid that into the next insight,
Mm,
the next shiny object, right? And because that feels like progress, it
yeah,
feels like obvious. I'm just breaking through. What's the next shadow? What's the next thing? What's the next thing to
yeah.
fix? But what I've noticed with clients and who have been the most successful, actually universally, often if they're really good at this, they're often like doing amazing in their actual careers or what they're building, of just being with the sometimes boring process of deepening and allowing just the light to continue to emerge
Mm,
and the new truth to continue to emerge. So it just becomes so embodied that that isn't just a new state that they can access,
mm,
but that just becomes them.
yeah,
That is them now,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Well, we've spoken about where they have a real new personality
mm,
in a good way that's more attuned to who they are.
yeah,
But that only happens when it becomes them.
yeah.
And and that can't happen when we're jumping onto the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I was telling you about a guy who just I love working with him. And he's not, when it comes to the initial shadow work, he's not the fastest at it, at breaking through,
Interesting.
but he's the absolute best when it comes to just being with the new embodied truth that emerges after
Mm,
and just being with it for a few weeks or however long we need
yeah,
until it sits in every part of his life. And one thing we've often done in sessions, and this is a co-creation, right,
yeah,
is we'll sit with it really deeply, for that first 20, 30 minutes, but then we'll explore what's it like to bring that into this part of your day, into this meeting, into your work here, into this specific situation with your partner. What's that like?
mm,
And it gets to the point where every single thing in his life mirrors back the new consciousness,
mm,
that it becomes impossible for him to step out of it. The stepping out is the weird experience that's not the homeostasis,
yeah,
right? That's like that's just a strange situation. And this becomes the new truth and the new experience that is him.
mhm,
And so I'm just curious what arises for you. And you mentioned there was someone coming on where this was important for them. But yeah, just what's happening around this.
yeah. Well, what's happening right now is I just remembered I forgot to connect my microphone.
Nice.
Going back now.
Cheeky.
Yeah, very cheeky of me. So there we go. Yep. Actually, what this brings up for me, funny story, if anyone's still continued in the hero's journey that Cameron's going through right now in preparing for a jiu-jitsu competition, is that the first 2 to 3 years of me really getting into jiu-jitsu was me like trying everything. But actually, where the real progress came
Mm,
was after that third year, going into four, five, six, and then seven. Obviously, with more nuance there, and there was moments of when I went and expanded out to more stuff, and then went back to the kind of like greasing the groove. Is the first year in jiu-jitsu, you just get used to getting smashed, basically. Like that is your repetition. So you learn how to survive, you learn how to defend positions. It's an uncomfortable experience, but there is like a level of fun in it. But when I kind of reached that third year, I became more intentional with developing things. So it was around that time period, or maybe year four or something like that. The years just like literally blend into one. It's during lockdown. It was highly illegal, but you're a competitor. You have to go out and compete. You have to go out and if you're not trading, if I wasn't trading that during that time, then you just get overtaken by everyone, right? So one of my
Yeah,
friends, he just opened his new gym and he invited all the competitors to train because he needed to train as well. And it was free, like totally free, like super cool. And that was like the biggest Shark Tank I'd experienced at that time because the only people that are saying yes to that are all the competitors that are crazy enough to wants to train so much and get and could get caught by like the police, basically.
that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So and you had to go through like a whole like bus journey and then like train journey as well. So there's like such a long time period to get there. Also for the UK, like it was kind of strict, but also people just kind of left you alone, right? So it wasn't like a really
Yeah,
draconian crackdown, if you remember. Like if you
yeah,
remember, that was a funny kind of side tangent. They were like, "Oh yeah, no one's allowed to go outside." The moment we started having really good weather, everyone went outside to the park in London,
yeah.
and there were so many people that the police couldn't do anything about it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was in this Shark Tank environment. I was with all the competitors. And what became abundantly clear is that I could coast or do semi well if I just fought for top position, all that kind of stuff. I was like one of the smaller guys. It's actually quite unusual for a smaller guy to want to play top game, but it's something which I was much more naturally inclined and talented at. And I could do very well against people that were bigger than me and had more experience and all that kind of stuff. What was clearly the weakness and the uncomfortability was me playing guard, which is playing bottom. What that is you have someone coming onto you and you have to like sweep them, or you can submit them technically from the top, or you have to stop them from getting past. And it's quite a vulnerable position, basically. Okay, like it's not for everyone, but it was a very vulnerable position to me. It was during those 6 months of lockdown that I just focused on that. 6 to 8 months of lockdown, where I just,
Mm,
no matter what, I played guard. Even when the other person gave me a bit of top position, I would maybe play it a little bit and I'd let them sweep me again. So there I was against the competitors, some of which would be in my bracket, right? Letting them put me in a bad position. And they have all of that mental storyline, like I'm better than this guy, all that kind of stuff. And I had all of my doubts as well, because in my mental mind, I had like all of my rounds with this person that I could potentially face was them getting the better of me. But what that did was that it enabled me to stay with one thing and have a solidified breakthrough now. So that now I haven't trained jujitsu in literally years. I trained back with my black belt friend who competes in all the European competitions. He's about to open his own gym, serious competitor, right? And I don't have any uncomfortability playing guard at all anymore. I haven't done it for
mm,
years, right? That's just a part of who I am now.
yeah,
And it's the same thing for shadow and for light. That's what we're trying to get to. And sometimes it
yeah,
will take a little bit longer, like sometimes it just takes longer for people. And sometimes you do have to, and sometimes you have to, if this is you, like sometimes you do have to manage the symptoms, manage the triggers. Like all that stuff is great progress, but you should never lose sight of that North Star of where we're trying to get to. Please, what were you going to
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's such a great point. Like,
say?
so often with this work, especially when you get good at going into shadow and liberating it,
Yeah,
whenever a symptom and a trigger comes up, you want to liberate it,
yeah,
right? But sometimes actually the the methodology and the right thing to do is, oh, I'm not gonna play that game,
yeah,
right? Like you were doing. Instead, I'm gonna just be with the light that's here. And
yeah,
maybe I'm just gonna manage the trigger and
yeah,
manage the symptom. I'm not gonna full shadow work breakthrough and
yeah,
liberate it. I'm
yeah,
just gonna manage it for a moment so that I can not pushing the light in that moment,
mm,
right? But I'm just managing it, letting it be, and maybe even doing something that makes me feel comfortable, right? Even if it's not the healthiest or perfect thing to do. then I can just be with the light when that kind of passes it by. But what's so great about that is I don't then go into a new tangent and
Mm,
a new thing to liberate and a new thing to work with.
yeah.
But this gets so strong.
Mm,
And I remember one of the big shifts for me as someone coaching this and working with people, where you probably noticed similar things, was I really had to stop myself sometimes going with their want of newness, because that's also something that I've had. Right. I want
yeah.
the new thing too, like the
Yeah.
next breakthrough.
Yeah.
It makes me look great of like we're just breakthrough, breakthrough, breakthrough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't look good 6 months, a year down the line,
Mm,
where it's light breakthroughs instead of a deep, in fact, impactful shift. And so I had to really put that to the side and just go, no, we're gonna stay with this. Let's make this really, really solid.
mhm.
And I remember there was one guy where it was like he was a brand new guy, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna almost similar to what you were doing. I'm just gonna play guard for this.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be it where we're just gonna make every single one so, so solid.
Yeah.
And he ended just being a client, but within like 3 months, he got to a place where he's like, I have no problems. I
Wow.
just feel great. I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And he was a closer, and he's like, and I'm doing really good at my new position.
Mm,
And he was like, literally, I have no problems. It's like, cool, we're
job done.
done.
Yeah. Job
Job
done.
done.
Yeah.
Come back if you want to work on something new, you know? And that was such a different shift for me
Mm,
instead of just the endless grind of fixing, fixing, fixing. Because sometimes we think we're doing great work by that,
yeah.
but we're not solidifying enough
Mm,
so that we make that personality shift. So we get to a point, like you said, where that's just a part of who you are, playing God. But in this context, it's just a part of who I am, and I just feel this light, beautiful peace. And I'm not constructing a reality where I might need to perform or do this or do that.
yeah.
That just is how my baseline now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost unrealistic when you've never had that kind of work or breakthrough, isn't it? I know when we were first learning in the early days, makes us sound like two uncles, doesn't it? In the early days when we first started learning about hypnotherapy, and it was almost like a reaction to the traditional talk therapy, which I obviously think holds a lot of value. But because you hear so many stories from people that have been through that, where it's like took 10 years to solve a problem, or they still feel fundamentally the same and all that kind of stuff. In that NLP hypnotherapy world, there was almost like a backlash to that, like, oh, I'll get it fixed in one session, you know? So
Yeah, yeah.
we had all of that literature like being like, oh yeah, we should do this, we should do that. But it still felt unrealistic to me because I'd never experienced that before.
Mm,
So how you can put it into words, I guess, like a metaphor, would be you're not trying to, like, let's say you have a ship that's sinking. You're not trying to just pour or pump out the water, which is obviously you need to do that at some point. That's managing the symptoms. You're not just trying to pump out the water or throw out the water. What you need to do is you actually need to fix the part where it's sinking, the hole. But
yeah,
sometimes it could be so full of water that you just need all hands on deck, just getting the pumps out, getting the water out.
yeah,
And only then has the water level gone down enough that you can see where the hole is and you can plug it. So when it comes to thinking about these breakthroughs for somebody that's for you that's listening right now, it's almost like you can't know before you've been there. You can't know what it is like, oh, is this correct? Is this? Is this that? The moment you start like really like analyzing in that kind of way, which is the reason why I brought this up, it's kind of the moment that you take all of the energy that you have of like actually creating the breakthrough and you're just creating more of a disturbance. Like, you know, that critical mind, right? If you're in the critical mind,
mm,
like it's kind of like
yeah,
stifles change. Doesn't mean that you're not critical at all, right? You should work with someone that you've done a lot of critical thinking about, who has had a
yeah,
modality which you can understand, right? We're not talking about getting into guru shadows or anything like that. Um, but you don't know until you've actually gone there and experienced it. And it can feel so tempting to be like, oh, I want to go here, I want to go here. Oh, yeah, but then I have this procrastination issue. No, we're just going to stay with this.
yeah,
Like recently, one of the clients that I worked with, She has she's been in therapy for a long time. She even such a long time that she kind of makes it fun of like therapy talk, you know. Um, you probably have those probably have those clients as well who kind of make fun of it a little bit because it is kind of funny as well. Me and you are guilty of that too. Um, so
Yeah,
she's kind of
yeah.
like a bit jaded, all that kind of stuff. And recently she was going to send a text to someone that she was angry with, basically. And I would say that anger was pretty justified. But it was clear she gave two responses. And what she was expecting me to do was validate her for the second response because the first one was more raw. But I read through the first response and it was more honest. It wasn't rude. It was just more polarizing. It wasn't rude. It wasn't like blaming. It wasn't any of that. So I said both are fine. I actually think the first one is more like actually describing how you felt in our session because there's a lot of stuff coming up. And she comes back to me a few days later and she says, "Wow, that was really helpful." Um, because I was so used to being validated for that second response
Mm,
that I thought you were going to give me validation for that when really there was a way to integrate both of those voices, which is what I said in like the extra coaching that I gave you or I gave her. Because what I was laser focused on was there was a lot of issues that came up in our session. The one that seemed like the easiest to shift, whilst also like kind of the prime mover, the easiest to shift, but also quite a deep one, was actually getting comfortable expressing how you actually felt and not whilst still dealing with the fear of abandonment and all that kind of stuff. And because I was
yeah.
laser focused on that, this has now become a more experiential breakthrough because she's now got the
Mm,
experience where she said that and the other person hasn't abandoned her, right?
yeah.
Who would have thought?
That's that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you can speak even a little more on the difference between the kind of in-session breakthrough, going through that
Mhm.
process, and then taking that out into experience and almost like stress testing it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this was one of the sessions where there wasn't like a clear breakthrough, to
Mm,
be perfectly honest, right? There was definitely progress being made, but what we came to
yeah,
the conclusion of was sometimes, you need something a bit more actionable. So like, okay, cool, there's a lot of moving parts. This seems to be like something which is really calling you to do. Let's make sure we just do that because that's a microcosm of the deeper issue, which is some abandonment stuff and with expression and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a bunch of things happening there with how she was raised in the family, all that kind of thing. And we worked on that. And then it was like a whole week process of her just trying to like think about it and work up the courage and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes these things can take longer, but the experience was different to what she thought. The experience was different to what she thought it was going to be. What that means is
right.
she thought another thing was going to happen. I mean, that's happened to me so many times. I can't begin to tell you like how many times I thought I got the whole situation figured out, and then to
Yeah.
against my better judgment, I send the thing or I say the thing, and it turns out to be great, right? That right there is so
Mm,
important because it completely contradicts whatever belief-based system you have, whatever you thought was going to
yeah.
happen, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Please.
yeah. I mean, it kind of sometimes people will come and they'll have these stories that really aren't based in reality.
Mm.
They're just based in something that maybe happened once, but was such a big thing that now it's their pattern,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe they would just grow up with someone where that was reality and that person was close to them. And so even that doesn't work with the rest of the world,
Mm.
right? That's completely contradictory to how the world runs or operates because they had someone who just solidified that for maybe 10 years.
Mm.
That becomes a reality. But then when they test it, right, because so often we don't test it because we're just within our story, that's just how it is, right? That's just my assumption. And sometimes we're even unaware that that's an assumption to begin with. But then hearing that in this situation, just like, oh, maybe I'd go slightly different to what I would normally do
Yeah.
outside of that story. And oh, huh, it's actually giving a different result, giving a different response
Hmm.
once I stepped outside and saw the actual truth,
Hmm.
the truth that was there all
Yeah.
along, but maybe I couldn't see because the story was so in my face.
Did you ever, is there any experiences of your own personal journey, if you wanted to share, where that was a big case for you, where like you fought that
Mm.
something was going to happen a certain way and you like turned it into a blind spot? Not to put you on the spot, but I think it could be interesting for people
Well,
to hear.
you know what I experienced, and I think this is a very um, possibly one that a lot of guys can maybe relate to.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just like a one moment, the story was solid, the next it was, I saw through it. But definitely being in a relationship for a long time, now
Mm.
almost 3 years, and even the years prior to that of being more authentic with how I showed up in dating and relationships with people
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
I'd say that the story around having to be a certain perfect, often hard, often performative man was like slowly through action and through this kind of work pierced through to a point where that was seen within a light of some truth, right? But seen mostly as just a false story that I had taken on. But
Hmm.
actually, I didn't need to be like that. And it was so interesting, even how you relate to things like fiction. I've been really noticing this more recently. I've been going on a little bit of a nerd
Oh,
rabbit hole
we
around the
love a
Lord of the
nerd rabbit
Rings
hole, don't we?
recently.
Yeah.
Especially when
Yeah.
it's something really good like that. And I'm
Yeah.
watching like these Lord of the Rings videos,
Oh,
and I'm just
nice.
noticing the people that I'm like really in awe of are so different to who it would have been 4 years ago.
Mm.
4 or 5 years ago, it would have been the kind of the coolest, most like hard character who would just ever, was just very cool, and he was never weak in any moments,
Yeah.
right? He was kind of a little bit like beyond in the sense of he wasn't connecting intimately with people because he was a little bit away, you know. And I would look at those kind of people and be like, oh, look at them, they're so cool, they're so suave, they're so um, just attractive from that lens,
Mm.
right? I want to be like that, right? And then now I'm noticing, one of the characters that I'm really like, oh, that guy is amazing is like Sam Wise Ganji, the
Mm.
Hobbit, who
Mm.
went on this crazy journey
Yeah.
just out of pure service
Yeah.
and was the one that, in the end, Frodo had an amazing burden,
Yeah.
right? He didn't fail in any way, but Sam was the one who like had to sort
Yeah.
it out and get rid of the ring.
Yeah.
He carried him the last
The
portion of
last part.
going up the volcano.
Yeah.
And before I would have seen him as like, oh, he's this small, weak hobbit. He's not rich. He's actually a servant he's the gardener for Frodo, right?
Ah,
He's got no
right. Yeah.
status.
Mm.
He's got none of this.
Hmm.
Yet I'm in awe of his character now. And I think part of that is that I feel less shackles around needing to have some crazy status or for
Yeah.
money to mean something about me or for how I act and being hard all the time to mean something about me.
Yeah.
And a lot of those stories dropped away through relationship of seeing that actually that didn't make the relationship better.
Wow.
It didn't get a better response
Was it like
in any way.
a moment that you broke through, or was it more like you woke up 3 months later and suddenly this issue was completely gone?
Yeah, I think it was more of the latter. It
Mm.
just slowly pierced. It was like,
Okay.
oh, that's a little bit silly. Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
need to do that.
Yeah.
And it would be one thing at a time. It would be like specific moments where I would be thinking that, oh, I need to be really right in this response. I need to be up here so I don't lose power, right? I don't become
Interesting.
controlled.
Yeah.
And then it
Become
got to the
controlled.
point where I realized, oh, yeah, that was one of the stories, right?
Okay.
It would come up in different ways. It would be like stories around being attractive to be loved, but then later on, the stories that stuck a little bit longer were more about I need to have power, so I can't be controlled in this relationship, and I'm just
Interesting.
doing whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
That was an interesting story. But then what really pissed for me, and I remember a really good friend of mine was telling me a story about someone he was dating and the advice he was getting. And the advice he was getting was from people, well-meaning people,
Yeah.
actually really genuine friends of his, but people who were more in just a different stage where they feel they have to be all of those things. And their advice was to a point where I was like, oh, yeah, that's funny.
What
And
were they
he
saying?
was like surprised that I found it funny. Their advice was like, oh, you need to like just send this so that you don't give power away, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
This
mean,
kind of
you just saw me.
response.
I just laughed at it too. I'm not laughing at person
Yeah,
in the reason why I'm laughing, Cameron can say this, that was definitely very me a few years ago. So
yeah, exactly.
please don't
But
take it like I'm laughing down at somebody. It's I'm laughing at myself.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's we're not laughing at them at all. It's like that was us for
yeah.
many, many years. And that was how I operated in the world and thought that was real.
Hmm.
And I realized, wait, what do you mean give power away? Why don't I just not give them power to begin with?
Yeah,
You know, it's only giving power away if it's out here for them to have,
to take. Yeah.
you know, because there was a situation where someone was being a little bit like a little bit avoidant,
Mm.
essentially,
Okay.
right? And not and this person was maybe being a bit more giving, and the
Mm.
person was meeting them with a lot of avoidance.
Mm.
And so
Tough
when that
situation.
person kind of came back a few months later and was apologetic, the guys were like, well, why don't you just be very short and abrupt, show that that's not okay, set a hard boundary here so you can keep your power.
Mm.
And that's fine too, right?
Yeah.
It's not, especially if you have a tendency of maybe over giving, being like, oh, it's all okay. If he did something really genuinely bad, maybe it's not okay.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine to say.
Yeah.
But the context of giving your power away, it's like, well, it can only be given away if you actually give it to them to begin with.
Yeah.
If it's actually their energy or just the idea of them, because it's not even
Yeah.
their energy, the idea of them is pulling you away,
Yeah.
where you feel you have to use different
Yeah.
tactics and
That's the
strategies, so
thing
you
to
must
address.
get them.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the
Yeah.
power, right? The
100%.
fact that I see them, they text, and I feel like a pull out of me.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like it's something out here that
Time to get to
is
work.
going to get my wholeness or love or whatever. That's the
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
But if
100%.
that's not there, then what can they do to get power from you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's impossible because they just you just don't. It's like you know, what's it? Water over a duck's back. It just
Mm.
falls away.
Mm.
There's nothing to grasp, you know. But if there's something to grasp, then you might need to use more specific cognitive ideas of, no,
Yeah.
I put a boundary here, and that's fine as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that was the thing for me of seeing, oh, well, there's nothing to grasp. I don't need that behavior of
Yeah.
being like overtly harsh sometimes
Yeah.
to hold on and keep the control or the power
Yeah.
to the point where when the power wasn't being given away, I could be really sweet and kind,
Yeah.
and yet there was no worries to begin with.
Yeah. Being really sweet and kind and still feeling more powerful than you were when you were playing all of those games, which is the
A
thing which
hundred
I really
percent.
couldn't wrap my head around. Like Cameron definitely can laugh at me because he was around me when I was going through this particular hero's journey. But it's true. It's funny because I'm sure Cameron would say the same about me. But when Cameron was talking about this, when you were talking about this, I was like, bro, like that's not even like naturally you to begin with. Like
Yeah.
you're naturally not like the super hard like guy who just doesn't show any like weakness in terms of weakness being like anything remotely soft, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's really true.
Yeah. It's just overcompensations.
I think
Oh, please go
that's not
ahead.
me at all. And yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm when I should speak now. Yeah,
Yeah, the
okay.
internet
So
is
I
definitely
suppose
having the
what
power frame for both of
arises,
us.
Yeah,
The
that's
internet's
right.
being a bit laggy.
The internet is taking our power away right now.
Yeah, we got to take it back. What's the
That's
correct text
okay.
that we need to do to send to the Wi-Fi consultant to make sure
That's
they don't
right. That's
abuse
right.
this
How do
power?
we assert our boundaries?
That's right. Yeah, but people who are really caught in
Yeah.
that, like me, or like other people that I've worked in, because that sparks an idea in me, excuse me, is like it's because they haven't seen the principle of where they're coming from. And it's exactly how you explained, which is the principle that you're putting your power out there to begin with.
Mm,
That your power is something that other people can just influence. That it is something that's external. That it is something which
yeah.
you're giving it out there and you're having a game to be like, who can take it first? Who can get this one first? Who can
Yeah.
do whatever?
100%.
All that kind of stuff. But really, but if you look at that principle and say, what's making me do that? Like, what's actually making me do that? Like, what is making me
Mm,
feel like that's something that I have to do? And maybe you might not, because that's a certain type of question. I know that I didn't like asking myself that question because it's very confronting. Because you're like, oh wait, like that means that like there's not actually like a clean, cool technique or strategy that I can implement to make sure that never happens. It means it's something fundamentally which I am doing, which means that the conversation moves away from me being powerful to me having an insecurity. At least that's how it
yeah.
was for me, right?
Oh, 100%.
And that's when a lot of
Yeah.
overcompensations, excessively stating your boundaries, like being aggressive, all that kind of stuff. Like there was a few months ago, I shared to you like a text I got from somebody. I can't go
Mm,
into too much detail, and there was like a bunch of accusations in what I did, basically.
mm,
That's somebody who I would say, or in that situation, or if we were to take that as a microcosm, people who really like overstretch where they're coming from and the boundary becomes attacking, which is what happened with me a lot of the time sometimes, whenever I've set boundary.
mm.
That's because there's actually an insecurity that these are not going to be listened to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that something you've
And
experienced?
I suppose just adding to that, I've definitely
Yeah,
experienced that.
yeah,
Needing them to listen to it, like needing them to validate the
yeah,
boundary as well.
yeah. You don't need someone else to validate your boundary. You
Yeah.
just say, boom, this is it, you know?
Yeah. It's like that's what it is. And
Yeah.
otherwise I'm just gonna exercise my right and just I'm not being a part of it.
Uh-huh.
And that's totally okay. But yeah, I've definitely experienced that for sure. And I think it's even I think the most obvious way is relationship and dating, where there would be a feeling of needing to exert independence because it would feel like otherwise I would just get smothered, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
Otherwise I wouldn't like it would feel like my independence in the world, my individuality and my power and agency was like shaky, like there was just almost open gate and I just had to push it out to actually um to feel that agency and that autonomy.
Mm,
Right. And so because that was happening very often when there would be moments where that story would be triggered, even if it wasn't even real, even if that wasn't really what was happening, I would have to put a hard boundary, which would often come with aggression and with this idea of, oh, I don't have to do what you say, kind of thing. Right.
yeah.
I'm just hyper individual, which there's a great subtle truth there of, yeah, I don't have to do what you say. I am fully free in this moment. But it was coming from aggression because I didn't believe it myself.
Mm,
I didn't feel it
yeah.
inherently. And so I had to make them believe it
Yeah.
and them
And then I could
submit to
believe it.
this frame so that
Yeah.
I could believe it.
Yeah.
Right. It had
Yeah.
to be obvious out here so that I could feel it.
Yeah.
And it would always be go wrong because I would come with that energy.
Hmm.
And of course they get upset and annoyed and we get in an argument,
Yeah.
right? Of course, because I was coming at it like, this is a boundary. Listen to my boundary. And then wondering why um,
Yeah.
my soft, sweet girlfriend is like slightly upset at me. you know? And I'm like, it's because she doesn't listen to my boundaries. You know, it's because of this, this,
I
this,
need to set
this.
it more, actually. I need to set it
Yeah,
harder.
I just said it
Yeah.
more, you
Yeah.
know, and that would be it. And you know, one of our mentors actually, well, both in many ways, Pierre is often a great example of this, but the one I'm thinking about right now is Kim.
Yeah.
And I just remember there was a few times that Kim really modeled just not needing for you to
Understand.
believe or
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Like he would say what was true for him, was his boundary and his reality, and that was it. He would say it, not needing you to
Yeah.
understand it. He would be there with compassion if you had questions,
Yeah.
right? But he didn't need others to comply in any way. He just
Mm.
simply shared that was what was for him.
Yeah.
And that was just such a great way of modeling it that I was like, oh yeah, you know, the power isn't out there, it's more in me. And I still get caught in that.
Yeah.
Of course, who doesn't get
Yeah.
triggered by small things where I'm like, no, it's them. You know, this one, I know you're right. The last time, you're
Yeah.
right, it
You're right.
was
The
the
last time it
projection.
was me, but
But
this
this
time
time,
it's
it's
them.
them. And
Yeah.
then you realize that it is them, kind of, right? They
Yeah.
are doing something that's triggering for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You're interpreting it as triggering,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, ultimately, you can't change what they do anyway.
Yeah.
So part of the projection work, even if it's not you projecting like a bad part of yourself on them,
Mm.
but sometimes it's just projecting that you have to change them,
Mm.
right? That they're doing something
You
maybe
have to
nasty,
mold them to
you
your
know?
worldview. No,
Yeah,
you just have to stop them from coming
no,
into
exactly.
you.
I didn't need to do
That's
that.
all you have to do. You just have to stop them here.
Yeah,
You can't do anything out
yeah,
there. If they're being nasty, defensive action is boom, you stop them here without them needing to understand. That's
yeah.
actually people who deal with people who are more narcissistic. Like I've got a client who maybe their parents were benign narcissists, right?
Mm,
Like always supporting when they did well, and whenever they don't do something for them, that's when kind of love is withheld. I mean, I'm sure you've probably had a few people that you've worked with this as well, right?
mm,
Really, really tough to work
yeah,
with. Or not tough to work with. It's really, really tough for them to have dealt with that, because
yeah,
these figures that you're supposed to have gotten unconditional love from, you don't. Like,
yeah,
so you have
yeah.
none of that foundation to build off of, and it's a bit more of a hero's journey. But when you're dealing with people who, if they're not narcissists, have more narcissistic tendencies like that, where you reward compliance and you punish defiance, basically, any of those kind of characters, then actually the biggest mindset switch and breakthrough is realizing that like the other person doesn't have to validate you in order for you to be right. Even if that person is a parent, like them
Yeah.
being pissed off has zero to do with whether you were right or wrong at all.
Mm,
Because that's what it comes down to a lot of
yeah.
the time, right? Like rightness and wrongness. Am I wrong to say this? Am I
Yeah.
right to
Yeah.
say this? The other person is irrelevant. And that's how people who have more empathy and compassion, like I would say me and you, we already score quite high on the compassion or their empathetic. What is it? Big Five personality test. The
Yeah.
um,
I think that's the one.
yeah, but like 80th percentile, 90th percentile, something like that. That
Mm,
means that if there's like 80 or 90 people in the room, we're usually in the top 10 or 20 of them. Obviously, it depends what room. It's just going
right.
on averages. So if you're someone like that, or even just higher than average, the reason why, if you're dealing with somebody who has a bit more of an egocentric, narcissistic, or if they're more just disagreeable, is there's almost like a fallacy that comes with it that in order for you to move forward with your boundary with your life, the other person has to agree. There has to be a consensus, which is a blind spot.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
consensus at all.
Yeah.
You can just say, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't
Oh,
have to explain myself,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I can choose. Maybe I'll come back to you tomorrow after I've thought about it, and then I'll think about if I want to explain it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Does that ring any bells for people you've worked with before? That's actually one of the
Oh,
big
for
things that we're working
sure.
with this client that I just mentioned
Mm,
for that example. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. And it's interesting. I worked with it a lot more earlier on with people in relationship kind of things, but then it comes up, especially in the business world as well, when
Mm,
people are dealing with clients. Some
Hmm.
clients can be amazing. Some can be like that,
Yeah.
where, and I remember one guy I had, he had a client who was a little bit like that, and they were doing really good
Interesting.
work.
Yeah.
And yeah, the client, he would experience a feeling of, I've done something wrong, even if that wasn't accurate, but just because the client was acting up.
Mm.
You know, the client was the one just in their own experience of kind of misinterpreting. Essentially, they had had like 6 months where they just exploded, right? Beyond anything the client had experienced before. And on the seventh month, they had a dip. And he's
Okay.
like, oh, now I have a problem. It's
Okay.
like, bro, we're about the last 6 months, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Highly
And
reactionary.
and so the client was getting very angry at this, right?
Interesting.
Because it was
Wow.
a projection of an introject, right? Wait, did I miss say that? The guy I was working with,
Yeah.
whose client was doing this,
Yeah.
he was getting very angry at the client who was like being kind of angry and off when they had one
Okay.
down month, right? So he was getting angry, the guy I'm working with, because he had an introject that was like, I'm wrong, I'm doing something bad. And so that was getting triggered in this moment,
Mm.
right? And so that's how it was able to feel like it was almost inside of him.
Yeah.
I think that's often the thing we experience when we feel like we can't set boundaries. It's because it's
Mm.
like they're crossing something inside of us.
Yeah.
And that can be a lot of things, but often it's an introject being projected
Mm.
where I took an idea that I'm bad, I'm wrong, um, I punish in some kind of way. And then now in the world, someone's acting like I've done something wrong, even if it's not accurate at all, even if we crushed it for 6 months and the seventh month, like things change, things happen, and we'll probably correct it as we go forward.
Mm.
But I still infer it as I'm wrong, I'm bad. And then I get angry because part of me feels like he's right, right?
There
Not
it is.
always, right? This is
Yeah.
one way it is, but part of me feels like he's right.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can't just hold deep peace of, oh, they're just being a bit crazy. We've done amazing for 6 months. The
Yeah.
evidence, I can't just even be logical, but we've done amazing for 6 months, 7 months didn't go our way. That's not a problem. That's actually objectively not a problem.
Yeah.
But because I feel like he might be right, I'm wrong, then that breaks my boundary internally.
Mm.
And so for him, it was re-owning that and then realizing it was in him. And then when that was broken within him and we gave it back to wherever it came from, it was like, oh, yeah, it doesn't really matter if he thinks that. But it
Mm.
wasn't even it doesn't matter if he thinks that. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, it actually just doesn't matter.
It actually,
Okay, that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you have like, oh, it doesn't matter, but it's coming from a bit of like feistiness.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Or inner
Yeah.
sassiness, maybe we can call it. That's how you know there may be an overreaction. But when it's like, oh, it really, this other person's opinion of me, of course, doesn't matter when it comes to my internal view of myself.
Yeah.
Like much more of like a matter of fact kind of energy. Like there's no
Mm.
pushing away. There's no trying to push something down. You're like, oh, wait, no, it actually doesn't matter what this
Yeah.
other person thinks of me.
The only thing I sometimes notice, and this is the only caveat I'd add to that,
Mm,
is sometimes when people who have been suppressed for a long time finally set boundaries,
yeah.
I've noticed there can be almost a grief anger, not even a
Mm,
projection anger, but a grief anger of like now they feel comfortable to set the boundary, but because it's so new, there's still a little bit of anger that
yeah.
they suppressed it for so long.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that like harsher boundaries come out to begin with, even though they've
Mm,
done the correct healing work, but it's just
yeah.
more of a grief. I don't
Yeah.
know if you noticed that. I'm sure you
Yeah.
did
Can be getting more
or had
used to
clients with
it
that.
too, right? Like just getting
Yeah.
used to what it's
Yeah,
actually like.
exactly.
Maybe there could even be grief, like, oh, I could have done this all along, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another one as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, I don't have anything else coming up for me.
I think it sounds like a good place to finish.
Enjoy, guys. I put all of Cameron's links in the description box, in the comment below. Go and check out his stuff. And yeah, that's all from me.
Yeah, just quickly from me, down below, I'll be linked to Aaron's channel. There's also a link if you'd like to take this further in any way and you feel like you need support from either one of us. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
Take care.